enormous game this weekend in Ann Arbor. We've already given you our prediction for it, given you our preview for it. So if you haven't yet watched that, I would encourage you to do so after you watch this video or this live segment. Make sure you subscribe. We appreciate y'all so much in advance for doing so. But when it comes to the game, there is so much passion and so much emotion and so many storylines on the outside of this thing heading into this one, as there always is with a rivalry game, but especially Michigan, Ohio State. Like, there's going to be some extra juice on the back end of this thing. There's going to be some aftermath that we got to kind of unpack together when it comes to this game. So what I want to do right now is for us to sort of unpack each result, an Ohio State win or a Michigan win, and sort of get ahead of this conversation for what's maybe real, what shouldn't be talked about, what's overreactionary when it comes to how this game could look. So let's start with what we predicted. And Ohio State fans, y'all appreciated that we predicted this one because we've been ice cold on picking your Buckeyes this week, and we don't, or this year rather, and we don't back down from it. But let's say Ohio State does lose its football game, because I think that's the scenario that could be the most doomsday-ish and have the most overreaction thought around it. There's going to be people, if Ohio State loses the third one in a row, Ryan Day loses his third in a row against Michigan, that say, you know what? Ryan Day is not our guy. We're out on Ryan Day, selling our stock. I want him out. For those that watch college football, for those that know what Ryan Day has done to this point, that is absolute ridiculousness. My man is 54-6 as a head coach. 54-6. You can say what you want about being born on third base. You still have to drive the car after you get handed the keys to a Ferrari. Like, we've seen other operations have, just as much handed to them and drive it into the ground. There's something to be said for keeping something at cruising altitude. So I would also ask this: if you don't think Ryan Day is the guy to get you over the hump with a 54-6 record, who do you want to go get? You want to go grab Urban Meyer off the big noon set? I don't blame you. I'm sure that would be tremendous. But assuming that's not a reality, who are you going to go get? I don't think there's somebody better than Ryan Day right now to be the guy at Ohio State. And the thing that I would say too is we shouldn't just discount the fit that Ryan Day is at Ohio State. Especially in college football, it takes a little something extra to be the head coach, to be the right head coach at your university. And having the right guy and the right fit that gets what your school, what your fan base, what your program is all about, you can't overstate the importance of that. Because we're seeing now at different places, guys that maybe we question are a fit or aren't a fit, that has a tremendous ripple effect. Like Lincoln Riley is the most obvious one right now. There are people questioning, hey, is he a fit for the head coach at USC? Is LA the right spot for him? Is USC the right spot for him? I don't know. I'm not here to tell you it's not. We talk about that with Jake Olson tomorrow actually on the show, so tune in. But that's something we're questioning. They're questioning the fit. You never question the fit with Ryan Day. You question, can he beat Michigan? You question, can he do that consistently, because that's the standard. But to understand what Ohio State's about, Ryan Day gets that to a T. Jimbo Fisher wasn't a fit at A&M. Tremendous resume, could recruit the heck out of a class, wasn't a fit at A&M. It is what it is. Now, Steve Sarkisian, he's a fit at Texas. He is the right amount of, I think, star power for a place like Austin. He knows how to recruit in state. He has the right emphasis on culture. All those things make for Steve Sarkisian being a fit at Texas. Ryan Day, make no mistake about it, he is a fit at Ohio State. Look at the guys he's developed and put in the NFL. Look at the way they've recruited. Ryan Day is a fit at Ohio State. Say what you want about third base, he is a fit. So to say that if they lose this game, he should be fired, he should be on the hot seat, it's all overreactionary. Don't listen to it. It'll eventually subside, and we'll get back to this game next year, and we'll have that same conversation, and if Ryan Day can get it done or not, again, if they lose that game. Now, on the other side of things, if Michigan loses this game, the optics will be what they are, man. There will be a lot of talk around sign stealing and a lot of question marks around the last couple of years, probably a lot of forgiveness for Ryan Day saying, well, hey, they cheated the last 2 years, and that's why they won, and that's going to be a talking point. Is it fair or not? I don't know. We'll talk about that and our thoughts on that here in a second. But there's also, I would say, a fair amount of people, if Michigan wins this football game, that will say, proves nothing. They still cheated the last 2 years. So let's kind of take that with a grain of salt. But the more important, I think, talking point here is going to be the Michigan faithful saying, well, we lost this game because Jim Harbaugh wasn't on the sideline. That's what people will say. Now, we can probably deduce how this game goes from an eye test perspective, if it would matter. If Michigan gets blown out by 3 touchdowns, doesn't matter who you got coaching the game, all right? They were the better team on that day. But my pushback on he wasn't on the sideline, so that's why we lost, thought would be, well, one, is Jim Harbaugh throwing a pass? Is Jim Harbaugh rushing the passer? Is Jim Harbaugh stopping the run? It's a big deal to have your coach on the sideline, but just what we said about the sign stealing stuff, you still got to play ball. If it works in your favor with the sign stealing for Michigan and kind of defending that whole process and that thought around it, it's got to work the other way when you don't have your head guy on the sideline. You still got to play football. Now, there will be some big calls to be had in this game, you would imagine, for Sharon Moore, but the impact of it, to say it's why you win or lose a football game, I have a hard time 100% getting behind that, because also they've done it without him to this point in the year. There's people in pockets of Michigan, conversations saying, well, they've already done it without Jim Harbaugh to this point in the year. Doesn't matter. You can't say it doesn't matter going into the game and then after the game say, well, we didn't have our head coach. So we got to kind of pick a side here. And if you're on the Jim Harbaugh isn't there, so that's why we're going to lose train, ride that thing all the way to the other side. But I don't think it's a thing where you can make that the excuse or the talking point after the game. Because I would also say, well, we took the suspension, did we not, if we're Michigan? Like we said, okay, that's the punishment. We don't want to fight back anymore for reasons that, maybe we'll discuss on another show at some point when we get more information. But, they took the suspension. So you can't say we were suspended for the wrong reasons, we should have been on the sideline, and then be upset and call that the talking point and be that the excuse if you end up losing this football game. So that's how we feel about that. The optics would be what they are. I'm not here to talk about sign stealing. I just think the Harbaugh thing, if that's their excuse, I would push back on that if I'm an Ohio State fan. Now, Ohio State, man, this is where it gets good. If you beat Michigan this year and Ryan Day is able to exercise the last couple of seasons and the last couple of games against Michigan, I think we got to change the way we talk about Ryan Day. Because we talk about Ryan Day as being one of the best coaches in college football and his win percentage and all that. That's true. I think we got to talk about him as being one of the best program builders in college football. Because what it would mean is Ryan Day adapted his philosophy, changed his way of doing things at Ohio State from one year to the next, adopted his philosophy to his roster, and was able to then reinvent themselves, climb up the mountain, and conquer what they weren't able to conquer previously. In short, Ryan Day adapted. All the best coaches in the country, all the best minds in college football, Saban, Smart, they adapt. And not to dunk on Lincoln Riley here, but we're seeing right now Lincoln Riley refusing to adapt and having issues and struggling because of it on the defensive side of the ball. Ryan Day, we forget, there was a point in time where their defense had real issues. Last year they had some issues, but even the year before that, they were getting gashed by Oregon. So what does Ryan Day do? He doesn't say, well, let's see how this plays out. Well, I'm just an offensive guy. He doesn't just, hide on his side of the ball. He says, you know what? We got issues. I'm going to go get the best defensive coordinator I can find in Jim Knowles from Oklahoma State. We're going to bring him in, and we're going to be better on defense. And they were better on defense last year. They're even better from the year before this year. He's adapting, and it's paying dividends. And if it pays the ultimate dividend this season, again, I think you got to put Ryan Day right up there. Right up there with all the best in the game. You already do right now, but I think even higher on that list is where I'd put Ryan Day, should they find a way to get it done against Michigan. I would also say this. Whenever you adapt, whenever you kind of get the recipe right the first time, it's a lot easier to get it right the next time. So I think we would feel a little bit different about Ryan Day being the head coach for years to come at Ohio State and the success they could have, saying, okay, they can win whatever roster they get. Going into the season, it was, well, there's no C.J. Stroud. We'll see how they look. That was how I felt, at least. I felt like they were really good, but I was wondering about Kyle McCord. I still wonder about Kyle McCord. But if they get it done, I don't question the recipe, because the recipe's been proven. It might take some time to get it right every single year, but it creates this thought and kind of illuminates us that, hey, Ryan Day, even though he's an offensive guy, they can win in multiple ways. They can beat Michigan regardless of who they have on their roster, because Ryan Day knows how to put together different recipes. So if they win, the conversation around Ryan Day better be just as loud as if they lose. I want to make sure we have that on the record there. Now, Michigan, if they win, there should be a lot of apologies for the slander of Jim Harbaugh and the job that he's done there being totally just due to the way that they've, cheated and what went wrong with Connor Stallions. We're not here to defend Connor Stallions. We're not here to defend cheating. If he cheated, that's wrong. If it helped them, that's an advantage, 100%. But again, we get stuck on this thought that if you cheated by having signs or by stealing signs and doing the whole sign stealing thing, I have a difficult time just pinning that 100% as the reason why Michigan was so good the last couple of seasons. If they beat Ohio State this week, I think you can kind of drop the mic and say, okay, all right, yeah, actually maybe it is the double-digit NFL players. Maybe it is the way that Jim Harbaugh built this thing. And Trey and I were talking about this very same thing before the show, And I thought Trey brought up a tremendous point. We'll talk about it here in a second with him. Like, how does that make you feel about Jim Harbaugh and his future at Michigan? Because, I mean, I've heard this point a couple different places, but like Jim Harbaugh being able to be off the sideline, his team still be dominant and still beat Ohio State. How much he's built it up, that thing is essentially running itself. If I'm a Michigan fan, my feeling would be I would hate for Jim Harbaugh to leave, but if he does leave, and we got Sharon Moore running the show, yeah, there's a sense of like, hey, we still probably got to see a little bit more proof of concept to feel amazing about it, but you would feel a lot better by winning this game with no Jim Harbaugh, with his system in place, with a system that Sharon Moore is going to continue to keep in place, than if you lose and he ends up going to the NFL next year anyway. Like, that's, I think, a very interesting conversation that we're going to have here in a minute. But like, at the end of the day, there should be a ton of credit to Jim Harbaugh if they win this game. Because to be clear, they have always, everybody that's on this roster right now, to the best of my knowledge, was recruited in a class that was ranked behind Ohio State. Okay, since 2020, they've been behind Ohio State on the recruiting trail. And so if they beat them for the third year in a row, what does that say about the development at Michigan and the way they've developed that roster? Heck, what does it say about the culture to endure all the weird circumstances that they've had this year? I think it would speak volumes to the coach Jim Harbaugh is, would speak volumes to the culture they have, and it would just, I think, hopefully silence all the sign-stealing nonsense about, well, that was why they won, because we never bought into that. I know it probably is going to be a thing where there's a portion of the crowd that's just going to, die on that hill, and that's fine, but I think this game would hopefully be a little bit of proof in the pudding for Michigan. And if they lose, if Michigan does lose, I understand you're going to point back to the sign stealing, and that's fine. Every right to do that, and it'll be something to talk about. Again, the aftermath of this game, there'll be a lot to unpack, but I cannot wait for it. Cannot wait for us to finally get some answers and to unpack some of that aftermath. And also get a gauge for the college football playoff, hopefully, based on one of those teams potentially winning the Big Ten. Game Time is bringing you all the hard count today. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Rivalry weekend. A lot of big-time games. If you haven't been to a game just yet this season, this is your last opportunity before a bowl game, so your last time to go see your team at the Big House, the last time to go see Auburn at Jordan-Hare. If you want to be at the game, Game Time is the best way to help you do that. The reason why? Obsessed with helping you save money. So there's not a thing where you're going to find a better deal on a better ticket in a certain row you want to sit in. Because if you find a row or a seat in the same row or section for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That's crucial. That's big money move. Saving money with Game Time. We appreciate them making that happen. Also, you can wait right up to the day of the event. They have tickets on everything from concerts to comedy events, college football games, most specifically for our audience. You can wait right up till the morning of the game, noon kick. Don't worry about it. Buy a ticket at 9 a.m. You're good to go with 2 taps using the Game Time app, and you will be there. Also, really, really important, no way that you're going to find a seat that you don't enjoy, because you can see the view from the seat when you purchase via the Game Time app. So download tickets without the stress, buy tickets without the stress, rather, with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. This is important now. Use code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. So $50 ticket, you're a first-time user, redeem code HARDCOUNT, $20 off, bam, $30 ticket. Steal it. So terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code HARDCOUNT, that's HARDCOUNT, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.